It's 1700s Prussia, and Frederick the Great's beloved country is about to face its biggest economic crisis, a possible famine. There's one simple solution: convince the masses of the population to start farming potatoes. However, these masses refuse to get themselves informed about the actual benefits of potatoes. They just deem potatoes as the ugly food that's for the less fortunate. Frederick the Great tried every possible way to get them to plant potatoes. He forced them. He tried educating them. He even imprisoned them for not doing so. But they continued to refuse, preferring to face possible famine, but wouldn't be seen planting the food of the poor. Frederick realized that in order to solve this issue, his only solution was to build the potato brand. Accordingly, he announced that potato is an exclusive luxury, and only the royal were able to grow it in their gardens. And he had potato gardens get full-time protection by the royal guards. In reaction, his irrational people grew madly obsessed with potato, that they started growing their own underground potato farms. And because they did so, the economy of Prussia has been salvaged. Were Prussians simply shallow and materialistic, or does this irrational behavior apply to others? Cut to 1980's communist Soviet Union, a country that decided not to leave such purchase decisions up to the uninformed masses. Therefore, they centralized these decisions to a perfectly informed unit. They thought if people were unwilling to be informed and are making such irrational decisions, then they ought to make these decisions for them. And without watching a single ad, Soviets grew obsessed with American brands and with what these American brands can signal out about their individual character, to the extent that the masses of Soviets were paying the equivalent value of an entire monthly salary for a pair of Levi's, and have even risked being imprisoned for doing so. The behaviors we have seen in these two incidents is neither exclusive to a certain period nor to a specific culture. It is a universal human behavior, and it is a behavior that has been ignored in classical economics, yet brought to the surface by behavioral economics. For starters, behavioral economics started referring to these perfectly informed consumers who are making perfectly rational, utility-maximizing purchase decisions as econs, meaning that they are fictional characters who only exist in economic theory. To better understand how actual humans make purchase decisions, we must understand how we process any piece of information. In psychology and in the science of advertising processing, we do so through the elaboration likelihood model. As humans, whenever we are about to process any piece of information, including that in an ad, the first thing our brain does is ask itself, how motivated am I to elaborate on this info? In case the answer is a yes, then it asks itself, how capable am I to elaborate on this info? And in case it is yet another yes, then such info is processed through the central route and the S2 part of the brain, meaning that the decision is made consciously, rationally, and in a calculating manner. Now, in case the answer to any of the two questions is a no, then the information is processed through the peripheral route in the S1 part of the brain. This is where decisions are made unconsciously and in an impulsive, intuitive, instinctive, and more often irrational manner. And the reality is that 95% of decisions, that is, not only purchase decisions, but all human decisions, are made through the S1 part of the brain. You see, according to yet another Nobel laureate in economics, Daniel Kahneman, thinking is to humans as swimming is to cats. They can do it, but they'd prefer not to. Apparently, the human brain is only 2% of our total body weight, yet it demands 20% of our resting metabolic rate, RMR. Accordingly, to save on our energy, we have evolved the survival mechanism to use our brains as little as possible. Going back to our original topic, we see that advertising is in no way doing what Dr. Chomsky accused us of, and that is attempting to keep the uninformed, uninformed. In fact, in cases where people are both motivated and capable, the task of advertisers is made much easier. And we have developed tools such as the means-end chain module, to ensure that those willing and able to get themselves informed, well, get informed. But in reality, that's rarely the case. Let's think of most of our purchase decisions. They are made in low-involvement categories. Think of buying chewing gum, toothpaste, coffee, a cinema ticket, a hail ride, or even toilet paper. Speaking of toilet papers, let's take the example of the Brits, who are globally among the most aware and sophisticated of consumers. Yet, they are still obviously demotivated and incapable of rationally assessing good toilet paper from the not-so-good toilet paper. Accordingly, we have seen the Brits buy more of the posh toilet paper brands, such as Andrex, during their festive seasons, evident by the fact that the sales of such brands increased by 50% during these periods. And this was strictly for the irrational reason of showing off their fancy toilet papers to their guests. In conclusion, uninformed consumers will continue making their irrational choices irrespective of what advertising is telling them. And in an open economy, such irrational choices may have caused markets to collapse. Again, it takes advertising and brand building to build positive, loving, and trusting relationships between sellers and uninformed, irrational buyers. Advertising should not be defined as the business of persuading people to make irrational choices, even at the instances where it is felt that these irrational choices are obviously the result of an ad. There are deeper reasons for the irrational human behavior we have been witnessing in the marketplace, and these reasons are going to be discussed in the upcoming Episode 4 of the Sensible Adman series.